Your appointment setter has more control over your revenue than you realise. And the scary part, it's not always because they're bad at their job. It's because they're human. They wake up tired, stressed, or they're just having an off day. And as a result, your response times slow down, your conversations lose energy, fewer people book calls, and your business makes less money. Your leads can feel the setter's energy. But AI doesn't have a mood, and that's becoming one of the biggest advantages a coaching business can have. In this video, I'll explain why your appointment setter's emotional state is quietly costing you book calls, why consistency beats talent when it comes to scaling your business, and how AI can solve this issue for you by giving each prospect the same high quality experience 24 hours a day without having a rest day or without getting in a bad mood. But before we get into why AI is going to replace human appointment setters, we need to understand a bit of human psychology. Imagine you walk into your favourite restaurant every Friday night. Same food, same prices. But every time you go, you get a different server. One week the server is smiling and attentive. You leave thinking, wow, I just had a great experience. Want to come back again. Next week they've had an argument before work, they're tired, they're distracted, they've had something going on in their personal life. Then they forget your drink, they seem impatient, and the restaurant just doesn't have the same feel as it usually does. Even though nothing about the restaurant itself has actually changed. That's because the experience isn't judged by the business itself, but the human that's delivering. And that's exactly what's happening inside your DMs every single day when you have a human setter in there. Prospects aren't necessarily just experiencing your business, they're experiencing your appointment setter's mood, their motivation, their intentions even. But unlike a restaurant, you might not even know it's happening. Most coaches seem to think that revenue is purely based off of how many leads you can get, how many people are engaging with your content, or simply how many bookings you're getting. It's another variable that almost no one thinks about. It's what's going on in the head of the person that's handling your DM. Because every single conversation your appointment setter has, they are influenced by how they're feeling in that moment, what they've got going on in their life, what their intentions are, like I said. Are they actually there to help the prospect, or are they just chasing the commission? Can you smell their commission go through the screen? Still replying to the messages, but they're not replying in the same way. And the scary part is you'll probably never know the difference. From your perspective, they're still doing their job. From your prospect's perspective, they're experiencing a completely different business. And yes, in an ideal world, appointment setters should be turning up the exact same, no matter how they feel. That's how we all should be turning up, whatever line of work we're in, whatever line of business we're in. But I've managed appointment setters. I can tell you now for a fact, a lot of them don't. Mainly because of all these scammy gurus that sell them on the dream that appointment setting is just some get-rich-quick scheme where they're going to move out to Southeast Asia within a few months without really having to put in any work. But I'll go off on a tangent if I keep talking about that. I'll stop rambling. But this doesn't mean that every single human appointment setter is bad. Far from it. I've managed setters, I was a setter myself, I've met plenty of amazing people in this industry as well as the bad ones. But they are still human. Humans don't perform at the exact same level every single day. It's just part of life. Sometimes replies take a little bit longer, sometimes they don't probe as deeply as they should, sometimes they accept an excuse without even challenging it really. Sometimes they forget to follow up, which quite frankly is inexcusable. And I've experienced it. I actually quite often go on a different account, message as many coaches as I can just to see how their setter will perform and take me through the process. I will purposely not reply, and 2-3 days later I'll check and I've still not had a follow-up. It's really, really poor. Sometimes they simply don't have the emotional energy to create a real connection with someone they've just met over a screen. When you're dealing with hundreds or even thousands of conversations every month, these tiny drops in quality really do have an impact. And they compound into fewer book calls and lower quality book calls. And because every conversation is different, your numbers become unpredictable. It leads to something most coaches completely misunderstand. You think you have a lead problem when in reality you have a consistency problem. This is where AI changes everything. AI doesn't wake up feeling tired. It doesn't have relationship problems. It doesn't get distracted. It doesn't burn out halfway through the week, nor does it rush through conversations just to get a quick sale. And it also doesn't decide that it can't be bothered following up today. Every single prospect gets the exact same level of attention, whether they're the first conversation of the day or the 1,000th. Are there amazing human appointment setters out there? Of course there are. I was one, if I may say so myself. But even the best human cannot outperform that sort of consistency. Consistency is actually what drives predictable revenue. Let's say you handle 100 conversations every day. Imagine those conversations were just 5% better simply because every single prospect received the exact same quality of experience with you. That's more people staying engaged, more people receiving booking links, more people showing up to calls, more deals closing, which is what actually matters. Nothing changed about your offer, your ads, or your sales process. The only thing that changed was removing the emotional variability that comes from the very start of your sales process, which is the appointment set. And those small improvements will compound month after month. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this. Your appointment set should not be able to have so much power that it determines whether this is going to be a good month or a bad month. Revenue should flow from systems, not someone's emotional state on a Tuesday afternoon. It reminds me when I worked with our client Ashley. We had everything sorted from her content to her closing, but that middle bit was where it was all going wrong. She was getting no more than 2 to 3 book calls a week, despite the fact she has over 200k followers. The second we sorted out that middle bit and moved that emotional variability, removed that inconsistency, 2 to 3 calls a day was a bad day. She went from 10k per month to 70k per month in the space of less than 90 days.
Setting for me was a persistent problem in my business. I went through a number of different setters, trying to bring consistency into that process. And as many people know, when you have a business that has social media driving a large majority of your leads, trying to manage a setting team can be very very, very challenging. And it's also very difficult to engage a large number of people with human setters. So for us, once our lead flow, we were getting at least 500 messages a day, creating consistency within all of those conversations became very challenging. And Community fixed this for us, and they've been absolutely incredible to work with. The biggest thing that wasn't working for us was having consistency with human beings and making sure that all of those conversations were a complete reflection of how I would actually have the conversation. The biggest thing that changed after working with them is, one, I was a lot less stressed. Two, you have this entire incredible team behind you, and now you're working together to create consistency with the tech as opposed to dealing with a lot of human beings and the emotions that come with that. You know, if your setter is having a bad day, having to deal with that, or they've got a family emergency. The good thing is AI doesn't have a family emergency and it doesn't sleep. So it doesn't matter what time people are coming into your DMs, there's always someone there to engage and answer them.
Not only because we knew what we're doing and we know how to set appointments, but also because it was implemented every day the exact same way. And sure, conversations have to vary a little bit. You've got to deal with different people a bit differently. The absolute foundations and core principles should always be the same. I get now you must be thinking, okay, I get now the consistency matters. But is AI appointment setting really where this industry's heading? I actually made an entire video about this. Why AI setters are rapidly replacing human ones. What's driving that shift, and why the coaches who are adopting it early are gaining some sort of edge, gaining an advantage. Click right here and I'll show you exactly why AI appointment setting isn't just another trend, it's the future of client acquisition for online coaches.